Hey. Cam is without power right now, so it's going to be me and might have a guest pop in. I'm not. Let me change that. I got the other one playing over here so I can make sure. All right, so who we got in the house right now? We have Nancy. We have Charlie. Long time no see, Charlie. Um, Lori, same to you. Jerry. Natalie. Lori again. All right, good deal. So we're gonna finish off the Marty Lacer interviews with the parts 3 and part 4. It's about an hour and 15 minutes. I got some more stories to tell. I have a concert clip. I believe it's from Niagara Falls. I might be wrong. I'll know when I start it. And then what else do I have? I have the possibility, if we have time, I might try to show that autopsy video. But right now, we're going to concentrate on the Marty Lacer interviews. Let me check something here. I just want to keep my email. Okay, now I want to get strange noises here. Okay, I'm going to keep an eye on my email. All right, so if you notice, I'm wearing a new cap. An epic cap came in yesterday. This is compliments of Joanne, one of our followers for quite a while here. So I love it. It fits. It's actually got a little latch that stretch. It's for one size fits all. So the marker, it says small, medium, large, extra large, and fat ass. So I guess you guys know where mine sits. Just kidding. Let's see. Charlie, yeah, Cam's without power right now. So he can't log in. If it comes back on, he's able to pop in. He'll pop in. Right now, you've got me. So I will try to fill the shoes of Cam on that part of the scope. But anyway, like I said, I've got some stories I'm gonna share like we do, and then we'll get into the Marty Lacer interviews. And last time we left it a couple of weeks ago was they had just settled on going to American Sound, which has kind of been a discussion of who really recommended it. And at the end of the day, I think the conclusion we have is obviously it was Marty Lacer. George Klein seemed to put his 2 cents worth in it. And I know there was a discussion there. Him and Marty both knew Marty Lacer. And I mean, both Marty Lacer and George knew Chip's Moment. George being a DJ, and of course Marty working with him. So, see who else we got? We're up to 23 now. So we got Vangelo's in the house. Who else we got? Satnin is here. Jerry's here. I think I said that earlier. SB100's here. Awesome. We got a good group here. We should have a good discussion. So now, what I've started to do is I'm going to go here to the chat where it's a lot easier to see. So, when we've done these videos like this and people have a question, especially if we have a guest with us, we've decided that what you could do is, let me get to this banner here. 3, 4. Okay, so when you want to do a question, start it off with 2 red question marks so we can spot it in the chat box. And we can ask it because you guys go so fast sometimes we miss them. And we don't want to miss that. It's going to be hard for me to try to follow you guys as it is. You guys got some great, do some great discussions on here, whether it's related to what we're doing or not. It's what we're talking about. I encourage all that. It's a community. So, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and kick it over. We'll start. I've got one little concert video I want to share with you, and then we'll get into Marty. This is from August 13th, 1975. I've kind of zoomed in on him a little bit. He's wearing this, I think it's the Silver Phoenix. Somebody out there that knows the jumpsuits can tell me better. But it's about 20 minutes worth of video. And I got to have to adjust the volume when it kicks in because it kind of kicks in a little bit. But it's got some behind the scenes first. Anyway, let's just start it. August 13th, 1975, Niagara Falls. This has no sound, but there's Aldebaran. He's the one that made that. Elvis has left the building. All the guys are wearing white there, so this must be during rehearsals. Not for sure. The music's going to kick in here a second. 'Cause it shocked me. You like that, huh? Epic hat. Yeah. Yeah. Joanne got that for me. I love it. It came in yesterday. Fits my head just perfectly. And so another cap. So I can I'll do rotations on them so they don't get worn out. But finally got to somebody I don't know how this ties in the little white lines. I think it's kind of cool, but I don't know how it ties in. If somebody knows, let me know. There's some interesting behind the scenes with the guys. That looks like no, that's a black guy. I don't know who that was. Maybe it's just audience people. If I'm talking too much, tell me to shut up. Thanks, Charlie. Nice stage. Good drum set for Ronnie. Who is that woman? That's not. She looks like she's part of the. Maybe she's just one of the wives. Okay, it's gonna get to the music soon. I promise. Ooh, 2 kicks. Is that Linda Thompson? In 1975, yeah, I guess that would be if she was worth some. Good catch there, Satin. Yeah, Patty says the same thing. Charlie's saying the same thing. I am going to bring in Mr. Crane here. Hello, Joe.
Hey, buddy, how are you today?
I'm doing good. We're without Cam today. He's got no power.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, he's there in South Africa, man. That happens to him all the time,
Yeah.
and it's a challenge sometimes, especially for him, having to. Okay, I need to make you a bit bigger there. That's too small. Let's see. Go back there. Go back to there.
I've been sitting here listening to Frank Zappa. You ever listen to Frank Zappa?
Yeah, I did years ago. I never
We were
did
young,
get into
right?
it much, but
When we were young.
yeah, yeah, he had some interesting stuff, I should say.
Don't eat that yellow snow.
That's the one that I think that caught me. A friend of mine had the album, and I
Yeah.
saw that. I go, "What is that?" He played it, and I thought, that's really kind of neat. He had a whole different perspective on music.
Hey, satin.
Yeah, Satin's here. So what I got, what I've done is I told them to go ahead. If they do have a question, we're going to go with the rule of putting the question marks to start a question,
Okay.
so we can spot them. So, and what I've done is I've started a video here. It's an audience recording, and it's Niagara Falls, and August 13th, 75, and then we're going to kick right into Marty Lacer.
Okay.
So I try to share one of these each time. There's some really good ones from the audience back 8mm, man. No, Helen. Yeah, I know you could speak to this, Joe, but back then at that time, being able to first of all record an Elvis concert and get at least a decent quality like this with just an 8 millimeter is pretty amazing. And they zoom out, and you could tell how far they are from the stage. So I think they probably it may not even be. It may be. What was the next one up from a Super 8? 16. But this is pretty good quality actually. We've had some really good ones. I thought you guys would like that. A little bit of a clip from Niagara Falls. So what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and get into the two parts. We're Marty Lacer number 3, and let me set up a couple things here. I need to move Joe. Oh, yeah, there we go. I can move that, and you can actually I ought to put you up there. Look at that. I move that over there, and I got to put. I'm gonna put this right over there. All right, so part 3, and we just finished the discussion about American Sound,
Okay.
and that he talked Elvis into. So whenever you want to stop, Joe, say something, just tell me stop, and I'll pause it. And then I'm going to keep an eye on the questions too, and if you catch one, but try to put those red question marks. Oh, I don't know if there's anything else simpler than that, but anyways, let's go.
And that's the way that is.
Um, you hear a lot of, things in the later part in Elvis's life, things with, when he was being mean, like, to the sweets and stuff when he was being mean to the sweets, saying that they smelled like...
It depended on, number one, the mood Elvis was in. Unfortunately, it all depended on how much the pills were still affecting him. It also, Elvis had a weird sense of humor, and he expected everybody to understand that most times he was kidding. And because people are around him that long, those of us who were around him, the guys, see, that's what the fans don't understand. The guys, especially those of us who were there from the beginning, the originals, who grew up with Elvis, we all developed the same sense of humor, almost the same likes and dislikes and what have you. We understood. Plus the fact, we cared enough about him to let him say whatever the hell he wanted to say, because we knew he didn't mean it. We knew when Elvis meant something. We also knew when he was kidding around, because we used to give it back to him too. You know, it was a two-way street, and he knew us as well as we knew him. The Sweets and them and the people in the band really were not around Elvis that much except when they were on stage. So they didn't understand. Elvis, I mean, that was Elvis's humor, and that particular night, I will guarantee you, the pills and the mood played part of what made him say that. And he thought they would understand because they had been around, you know, they had been singing with him that much. And they didn't. They took it personally.
Yeah, I remember when that story came out, you know, about him making that remark. I think it had something to do with catfish or something like that.
I smell like fish.
Yeah, and you know, first thing my dad said is, because my dad's was a Southerner, and he said there was no racism intended by Elvis whatsoever. It was a Southern type of remark that he made, you know, that a lot of Southerners make as far as a response to somebody, you know, in some kind of way. But I think Marty's right in the aspect that, being that the band wasn't around him in the moments like they would be around Memphis Mafia, they took it wrong, and I totally understand. Or, you know, in my belief, I think they took it wrong. That's just my opinion. I'm not for sure. And once again, too, Marty's probably getting a little point there too. It could have been the drug, you know, the medication, or whatever was going on. This is 1975, you know.
Where was that said? That wasn't said live or anything. They weren't in concert or anything, were they?
It was at a concert on stage.
That was not a good thing to say.
No, they walked off. They walked off.
It depends on the way you take that. I mean, I can take that really bad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that's the way they took it. Now, if he meant it that way, we'll never know.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah.
Like we said before, to me, my reference now is, who cares what color the pajamas were? You know, we'll never know this, and we're never going to know that. And it's just an incident that happened, and obviously the Sweets forgave him for whatever, you know, happened, because they were back, I believe, the next night or pretty quickly, and they knew very well. I mean, how many times afterwards in their interviews did they say that never did, especially Myrna, and actually, who was the other one Myrna and, I can't remember this. I know they talked to Sissy, but she wasn't around for just a year. But they always said they never saw one sign of racism.
No.
And that would have been considered a kind of a racist remark, because, you know, that's a Southern soul food. Catfish and that. All right.
What happened, Marty? I mean,
Well, basically,
he
he
said,
had heard, what started it is he had heard some remarks told to him, I think, by J.D. Sumner, who would stab anybody in the back.
you mean that fine?
Did he say he would stab anybody in the back, or he wouldn't?
Yes, because I know things too but people take that really bad because the religious side of him. You know, so you keep your mouth shut.
Yeah.
Religious man? You mean that fine religious man?
Shit. I tell you some stories. And,
I've heard some.
yeah.
Okay.
Anyhow, he was told some things that Kathy Westmoreland had said. Because, see, Kathy, she's basically a nice person, but, you know, sometimes we thought she had flipped off somewhere. She exaggerates her relationship with Elvis a lot.
Really?
I mean, he liked her. She's a nice girl, but there was nothing serious there on Elvis's part. Anyhow, she said either to JD or somebody, whoever told Elvis that, she didn't particularly appreciate some of the things Elvis would say on stage when he introduced her, or didn't like the way he introduced her.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that pissed Elvis off. So that night on stage, she said something to the effect of, this is the girl who sings with the high voice, and she's easy, she'll make it with anybody.
That's right. That's what, yeah.
Mm.
And so she stormed off the stage. And then he looked over at Sweet Inspirations. He said, I smell catfish. Now he thought...
Now, no one's going to tell me that he was kidding with these people.
Yeah.
They were already upset before they even went out there. So I think I am totally 100% correct. He did that to hurt their feelings, and it certainly did.
When you hear the details, yeah. When you hear the backstory, yeah, I agree with you. Elvis wasn't perfect, man. He, and we've read many times that he had a horrible temper when it was set off.
We did.
And but yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, when he said that, I'm just like, it just changed my whole perspective of that event. But to me, it's over. It's just an event that happened, and it definitely doesn't, to me, affect how I feel about him.
No.
Some people it would out there, and that's them. But it's just hard to hear stuff like that, when you really like somebody like Elvis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But you also, if you're smart, you know that shit like that happened.
That was funny, see?
Mm-hmm.
And he thought they would understand. But everybody except Myrna took it personally and walked off with Kathy.
Hmm.
So then Elvis walked over to Myrna because she stayed on stage. He took a ring off his finger and gave it to her. And she gave it back to him. She said, no, I can't accept this. That's what that was all about. And and see, them walking off, it pissed him off. And so later, what I was told, he sat and talked to them and told them, he said, look, I don't mean anything by what I say to you, and you should know that. You've been on stage with me long enough, and you know how crazy I am. And, there ain't no need in doing that again, and don't do it again.
Right.
Vangello. Yeah, they kept singing with him, Jamie. Vangello, what was meant by religious part? I missed something. That we're talking about JD, right?
There was just things. Everybody thinks he was a God-given, did nothing wrong thing,
Yeah.
and he had his vices. He liked to nip. You know what I mean?
I've heard that many times. Yeah.
And womanizer, and could have a temper in that too. Human, like you and me.
Yeah.
Human, but
I got stories that I could tell that, of course I'm not like Elvis, but still, we all. I can't think of anybody walking the faces of the earth that has never done something wrong. In
Right.
fact, I don't even have to think about it. I know there's not,
Mhm.
So good. Thanks, Vangello.
I think he must have. My goodness, they just walked right off the stage. How long did they stay off?
I don't know. I wasn't there. But, I was kind of surprised that Estelle and them would do that. Because, see, I'm the one that recommended them to Elvis in '69 before he... primarily because their big hit record, Sweet Inspirations, was cut at American here in Memphis. Chips and them did it. And so that's how I knew about him, because that was a great record.
I didn't know that.
I knew it was a good R&B record, but it also had that gospel feel to it. And I knew Elvis would love him, Because he originally was thinking about getting the Blossoms. But the Blossoms were all tired, and they didn't hold a candle to Sweet Inspirations. I mean, the Sweets, you know, used to back Aretha and Dionne Warwick. And I knew that, you know, because quite frankly, I was trying to get Elvis to stay away from the J.D. Summer type music and that influence, because they didn't, J.D. and even the Imperials, even though they're better than the Stamps, and I like most of the Imperials, Elvis shouldn't have been on stage with a white gospel group. It's that simple. All he really needed was the Sweets. But he only did that because of J.D.
Really?
You know.
I have to disagree with
What happened, Marty, that there was all of a sudden there was the Imperials, and then there was the Stamps, and then there was the Imperials, and then Voice. What happened there?
Well, see, originally the Imperials were with Jimmy Dean. And quite frankly, Jimmy Dean paid them more than Elvis did. And they had an opportunity to go back with Jimmy Dean.
Right.
And they had asked, from what I heard, they had asked Parker and Diskin for more money, and he wouldn't give it to them. And so and then at the same time, Jimmy Dean was going on either tour or playing in Vegas or somewhere, and they went back with Jimmy Dean. And Voice was the biggest joke of all.
What was that all about?
Here again.
You know, I laugh because today on our premiere, we do a premiere every week of Inside the Studio. Voice came up in the discussion, Cheryl Nielsen and all that, and the comment was that we never really liked them. So it's to hear that from Marty, you know, Elvis liked them for some reason, and you know they fit in when they did "It's Now or Never" or some of the other songs. It was great, but I have to disagree with Marty about them not even needing a male. Was it a male gospel?
Yeah.
Especially when he got into the gospel. But you know, you think about them. I Got a Woman. Who was going to take that low note? Kathy Westmoreland? I don't think so. You know.
I think there was a time, though, I wish he had gotten away from the gospel sound, too, with the Sweets. But I agree maybe with just the Sweets and got rid of J.D. But like you said, he wasn't going to do anything to J.D. because of their history.
Yeah.
They
went all the way back to the 50s.
I got tired of the sound.
Yeah, it was always like one of my favorite parts of the shows that I saw when I went to the shows. But you know, I also can understand your perspective. It'll get Elvis was the king of rock and roll, and it seemed like some of the rock was starting to disappear. And anyway, what are you guys talking about? Oh. Different. None of my business.
And is the influence of J.D. See, there's a vast difference between white and black gospel.
Oh yeah.
Okay. The white gospel belongs in the category all itself, and it belongs in the category that it's not commercial music. You get a singer like Elvis that basically his style from the very beginning, what he developed, was developed because of the influence of black music and country music back in the 40s and early 50s. And then he blended them both in for his own style. But he had a great R&B basic foundation, blues foundation, as well as black gospel. Because in the early years, in the 50s and 60s, basically that's the gospel music you listen to, with the exception of one group, the Statesmen. But we used to listen to the Harmonizing Four, with Jimmy Jones, his great bass singer that put J.D. to shame, and the Golden Gate Quartet. We used to listen to them for hours on records. And then when we'd go to Vegas in the early years before Elvis started performing there again, every night, almost every night, we were at the New Frontier listening to Clara Ward and her singers. Clara is from here in Memphis, and they were just fantastic. They're black gospel singers. And it just, it hurt Elvis, as far as I'm concerned, on the records and on stage, to have J.D. in them. So then he gets this idea, because Donnie Sumner, J.D.'s nephew, or whatever he was, thought he had an idea that he would form this group and see if Elvis would back him. They were terrible, first of all. And so they got Cheryl Nielsen and Donnie Sumner and Tim Beatty and some other joker. And Elvis got on his kick because J.D. had suckered him into the white gospel, listening to it, and yada, 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 yada. And Elvis thought he was going to be this great impresario and this manager and have his own group. And this killed Parker. It killed.
Let's see, I don't know who just. Hey, Richie, this is. I know you just came in. This is Joe Crine. He's the one actually doing the interview with Marty Lacer. So the voice you hear talking to Marty is this gentleman right here, Joe Crine. He's been with us a couple times on the shows, so he's got a lot of great interviews. So that's who that is. It's not John Dinsmore. He thought you were John Dinsmore.
Yeah, I saw that. Thank you, I guess.
Yeah.
Vernon Presley. Some of us it didn't kill money-wise.
Did Kathy ever marry? Have kids? Would she be in her 70s? She's in her 80s now, I believe.
I always wanted to interview her, but she wanted to get paid.
Yeah. I don't really know. I know she wrote a book. I read the book by her. I don't have an opinion about her. Because I just don't. I've heard some negative things. I've heard some positive things. I've heard her obviously speak highly of Elvis. They all do. But some of the stories that I read, like my understanding was the remark that came from Elvis said, "Do you think they'll remember me?" was supposedly said to Linda Thompson. But then Kathy says he said it to her, or asked her. It was a conversation. It could very well have been both. It's not like he doesn't have to say to both. But I don't know. I'm Switzerland on her. I'm totally neutral. Don't even know enough about her to know where she went after he passed away or what kind of career she did. Joe, did you ever interview Millie Kirkham?
No.
Oh, that would have been a cool one, wouldn't it? She was with him for years.
See, I don't remember what I talked to you about and what was talked on the show. Did I tell you how she was charging for photographs?
Who, Kat? I don't think so.
Yeah, because when I was there for the week at Vernon's, she was there for the week as well, sitting, and people would come in and see her and have a photo or something that she had there. You'd have to buy it, and she had a bodyguard, big black guy, and he was told not to let people take pictures of her. If they did, they would be charged $10. And I said, "How are you going to charge somebody money for them to use their own camera to take a picture of you?" He said, "You can't do that." But she was absolutely 100% serious.
When you're in a public forum,
Yeah,
you got the right to take a picture. You can record anything you want. When people don't have the expected, don't have the expectation of privacy, and you don't have that in a room with people all around. So if people have the right now, if they post at the door, no cameras and all that, that's up to the room to do. She doesn't have a right to charge them. You know, they could come and say, "I need your camera, no pictures taken," but she could. There's no way she could charge them.
No,
That's
it's ridiculous.
that's crazy. Her book is a fortune online. So is Mary Jenkins' book. Thanks, Reggie. I appreciate that. All right, here we go.
No, by kill, I mean it upset them greatly because of the money, and they felt Elvis didn't need this, and he was wasting his money, and because Elvis paid for everything for these guys.
Oh, really?
And then he put them on the shows. And to us, to some of us guys, we just saw it as nothing but a con, and that it was taking Elvis so far away from what he really was.
Mm.
That's what bothered us. And so, you know, that went on for a few years, and then he had enough, and he cut him loose. And one of them was, I think it was Tim Beatty, started to supply Elvis with stuff he shouldn't have been taking.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when Red and Sonny and Dave Hebler found out and knocked on their door in Vegas and told them, "You give Elvis anything else, we're going to break your legs." Of course, they went and cried to Elvis real quick.
I gotta give you props, Joe. I love it, and I don't know whether you do this purposely, but I'm assuming you are. I love the way you just hold back and don't ask another question and see where it leads to.
Well, if they're talking, you shut up.
Yeah, and there was a little bit of a pause there, and I got, and I haven't heard a pause this long in all this, but it's almost like you could hear in Marty's voice the anticipation of when's the question coming, and then he went off on something else. Well, you know, I love that. I just, you know, it puts him on the spot. I think sometimes.
Mad at Red and Sonny and Dave for that.
Mm-hmm. Why do
they were trying to do was protect his ass.
Yeah.
Mm.
Why do you think that you know? Why was Dave and Sonny and Red fired? Was it because of lawsuits?
Because Elvis was influenced by 2 or 3 people: Vernon Presley, Joe Esposito, Colonel Parker, and Dr. Nick jumped in there because he and Joe were buddies. Vernon, number one, would be happy to get rid of anybody because he only looked at it with dollar signs. And he felt it. He felt that none of us should be there because we were taking money away from Elvis. And as Elvis always put it, Daddy's always afraid I'm going to be broke and he might have to go back to work.
Mm-hmm. How much did he listen?
We all understood Vernon being that way from the way he
Sure.
was before, because he was poor and yada yada. But he never did like to work. Period. As Elvis used to say, he's had a terminal back problem forever. You know, and he didn't have a back problem. Parker didn't like it because Parker didn't want anything to upset the apple cart. Joe didn't like it because Joe, if Joe had his way, he'd be the only one there.
Mm-hmm.
See, Joe thought he was something special, and he wasn't. Elvis didn't think he was special, and we didn't think he was special. There's some of us liked Joe. We just didn't like what he did. I particularly did. Joe and I always got along, but I particularly didn't like the way Joe talked to people, talked down to people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and he loved telling people what to do. When I was a foreman, I asked them to do it.
Mm-hmm.
and there was a difference.
And was he letting Parker know what was going on?
Plus, he was letting Parker know what was going on, and Elvis knew that too. I don't know if I told you this before on the other interview, but when
Joe, did you ever interview Red or Sonny?
Sonny, yes. Red, no. I would have loved to interview Red.
Yeah, that would have been an interesting one.
I was made,
Yeah, you told me that story. Yeah.
yeah.
So were they, what was the reasoning that they would let go then? Oh, they
Started in on Elvis and saying, Elvis, they're causing these lawsuits and yada, 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 and they're hitting people. The only time Red and Sonny hit anybody is to protect Elvis, and that was really in Tahoe. Sonny hit the guy first. The guy tried to break into Elvis's suite when he was told he was not invited and he couldn't come in by David Stanley. The guy got in an argument with David Stanley. The guy was about to hit David. He drew his hand back and was about to punch David, and Sonny stopped him. Sonny grabbed his arm and then knocked the hell out of him. And they called security, and security came out. And the guy was belligerent. He was drunk, and he kept mouthing off and saying, I'll beat your ass and this, and he was saying it to Red and Sonny. And then Red just had enough. No, what happened was they put the guy in the elevator with security, and the guy said something about Elvis. And that just set Red off again, so Red hit him. Well, the fact of the matter is, the guy was a trespasser. He was an intruder. But he saw dollar signs, so he turned around and sued. He's not going to sue Red and Sonny because they ain't got any money. So he sues Elvis.
Right.
That's what caused the lawsuit. So Parker, Vernon, Joe saw an opportunity as an excuse to keep talking to Elvis about these guys are costing you money, yada, 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 because they ended up settling the lawsuit that Elvis had to pay for it. And they're costing you big money, and they go around hitting people. They didn't go around hitting people. They were doing their job. If they hadn't got this guy when they got him, or one or two other people in all those years, and they had got to Elvis and hurt him, what do you think would have happened?
Right.
What do you think would have happened to Sonny and Red then? They would have been fired. All they were doing was doing their job. But these few people, saw an opportunity.
How in was Dr.
I'll give you a perfect example of attitude.
Okay.
Because Charlie Hodge, may he rest in peace, was basically the same ilk. Elvis was mad at, I forgot who it was, 2 or 3 guys one time. And Elvis said something, well, when they get up here, I'm going to fire them. And then Elvis went upstairs. And Charlie and a few of us were sitting downstairs in the den. The first words out of Charlie's mouth was, good, if he fires them, that's more gravy for us. We all looked at Charlie when he said that. But that was Charlie, so that's the way he was. And most of us, the original guys, we didn't think that way. None of us were there. Most of
I always looked at Charlie as kind of that group as the loner one of the other group, kind of a loner to himself, and I could see him I can see him making that remark, or it just seemed like his personality. It's just more for us. Hey, listen, I do it all the time.
I did it on Elvis Express Radio all the time, and Lee made it like a funny thing every time, and I felt like an idiot, but he made it even worse by picking on me about it. So
I'm the worst at it.
well, he's like, you've done this for 25 years and you still do it. So well, I got dogs that are running around, so I didn't want you to hear him piddle.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah.
No, I think you're hearing things that you've new things, haven't you?
Yeah, there's a lot of new stuff here that I'm hearing that, with that whole with deal what he just told about with Charlie and that drunk and I knew that there were a lawsuit and Vangelo made a remark that there were other lawsuits too. So I don't. It'd be interesting to know what other ones were that came out. But Elvis was a lawsuit magnet, anyways.
Sure.
But it didn't help. If Marty's right, then Red did his job. And I don't know enough about Red other than he was one badass. You don't mess with him, and then Sonny too. But I think Red was probably the 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 go-to guy for stuff like that. And but I don't know enough of his temper. Would he be able to control himself to the point of, no, this is enough. I don't want to go beyond this. Then we're talking lawsuit. But of course, people are going to make a lawsuit anyways. And
Right.
it's lawsuits. There's so many ridiculous ones out there. I mean,
Well,
even if a guy goes and robs a house, right? There was somebody that did this several years ago. I don't know what became of it. So some guy goes middle of the night and he's going to break in the house, but he's trying to go up through the roof part because there was one of those dormer windows there. So he got up there and he hit a spot, slipped, fell all the way off the roof, broke his leg, sued the owners of the house. I I read that article. I go, what am I reading Mad Magazine or something here? It's just like, what the hell? And people win lawsuits with that stuff. Like the
sure.
lady that spilled hot coffee on her lap. Hello. I mean, coffee hot here. What you I laugh at the audacity of people, and then I laugh even. Then I cry when I find out some of these people win these lawsuits. It's no
Yeah.
wonder insurance is so high. Liability insurance is so freaking high.
Now,
It's nuts.
now I brought up about why they were fired and that, and it was said that they were rough. Now, what's funny thing is, I have a letter that's in my collection from two people who knew Colonel Parker pretty well, and they were kind of roughed up by the boys. I don't think it was meant, but they went through the crowd real rough and went after some people, and they dropped their camera. So they contacted Vernon, and Vernon said, well, I said I will replace your camera. I have that in a letter because they got really rough with them. So then they asked Vernon if they could get some free tickets and that. But yeah, and that was right around the time they got discharged. Yeah.
Oh wow. Wow. All right, let's see where we're at.
Question, I should say. We're there for what we could get or the money, because, quite frankly, there was none.
Well, what did you get paid, Marty?
The pay sucked.
A lot of people feel that. I mean, my God, you got cars and houses and medical,
Yeah.
and they
Well,
fed you.
okay.
And I'm saying what you said.
Yeah, we got cars. Yeah, but my three children couldn't eat a car. You know. And when you start off working for Elvis and you have a wife and a child, and he pays you $45 a week, okay, that was excuse me, 6 years before I ever got a car.
Wow.
I appreciated the car. We all appreciate it. But Elvis, I can guarantee you this, that Elvis knew that I was not there for what I could get. Because the only time, with the exception of one time, Elvis and I ever had an argument is when he wanted to give me something. See, that first of all, and I'm not patting, I'm not an angel.
What do you say when he wanted to get himself?
When Elvis wanted to give him something, that's when he had an argument, because I'm sure he's going to say that he'd always say, I don't want it.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah. I missed what it was he said, and that makes sense now.
I'm not patting myself on the back. That's not the way I'm made. Friendship means more to me than that. And secondly, I was very cognizant of the fact that that's the way that could be perceived. And and he knew that I was not there for the money. I don't know if I told you this story before about paying him back.
No.
Did I?
No.
In 1963, I took a break and went back into radio. And at that time, I had been offered a production director's job at WNOE in New Orleans. And we went down there. My son was born. And back then, radio didn't pay all that much, although it paid more than Elvis did. And so, even though we had a hospitalization, I still had to pay extra money. And it took basically most of the money I had for my, for the procedure of my son being born and what have you, and paying the hospital bill. And the day after we brought my son home, and I had just paid this big bill, and Alan Fortas had called me, to see how we were doing, how my son was, and congratulate me. And we talked for a while, and I said, yeah, he's, everything's fine. I said, except the hospital would like to kill me. Money-wise, I said, it's basically all my money's gone, except what I get paid during the week. And he said, you want me to say something to Elvis? And I said, no, absolutely not. He said, okay. Well, about 4 days later, I got a check in the mail that Alan had sent from Elvis for $300.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I appreciated it, but it kind of pissed me off that Alan said anything. So I took that not as a gift, but as a loan, that particular time. And about 6 weeks later, my wife and I and my oldest daughter, and my son was still a baby, we would come up to Memphis for the weekend, and so my parents could see the baby again. And my wife and kids stayed over that day. We were staying with my parents, and they were at their house, and I went to Graceland. Elvis and them were in town, and we were sitting out in the back, and it just so happens that was the same day that Joe's oldest daughter.
Did you see that, Joe?
Which one? What?
For Vangello. Says, good for you, Joe, bringing that up to Marty. I've read 2 of Marty's books. He admits between him and his wife, Mary got 10,000 hand nets and 2,000 to his wife under $1,500 after Marty left. Huh. Wow.
Debbie was being baptized, and he had named Elvis her godfather. But Elvis didn't want to go to the church, so he sent one of the guys in his place to stand in for him.
Do you want me to pause it? Oh, okay. I thought I saw you go like that.
So Elvis and I wasn't told about the christening. I mean, they didn't know I was coming, so I didn't get an invitation. So I decided I was going to sit there with Elvis. And I had this little table out in the back. This is before the jungle room was built, and this was before initially that area was screened in.
Do you know what year this interview was done? No.
That wasn't even screened in there. There was nothing but a back patio. And we had this round metal table out in the back, and Elvis and I were sitting there. And I said, where's everybody going? He said, and then he told me about the baptism and that Joe had named him the Godfather. And then Elvis looked over to me and he says, you and I both know why he did that, don't we? And so I knew Elvis was cognizant of that shit.
Uh-huh.
And he said, by the way, what'd you name your son? And I told him, I said, the fact is, I said, I almost gave him his middle name, give him your middle name. I was going to call him Mark Aaron. And he said, well, why didn't you? He said, I would have really have liked that. And I said, for the very reason you made that remark just now about Godfather.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I don't want anybody to get the wrong fucking idea. He said, Marty, I wouldn't have the wrong idea about you if you did that. I said, well, I appreciate that, but that's all well and good. So he got up to go inside, and I followed him. And we go through the kitchen and into the dining room, and he's in front of me with his back turned. And I said, Elvis, can I talk to you for a minute? Now, when someone said that to him, it usually meant, can I borrow, or can I have? Can you let me have? And this is the way he said it. He said, yeah, what do you want?
Oh, jeez.
And I said, look, and I pulled this envelope out of my back pocket. I said, I appreciated the $300 you sent me. And I hadn't been able to save it all, but I've got $50 that I want to give to you towards that $300. And it was like somebody hitting him with a brick. And he looked at me, and I just held it out, you know, and he wasn't going to take it, and I said, here. So he took it, and he started going out of the dining room, and he started up the steps to upstairs, and he turned around, and he had tears in his eyes. And he said, you don't know what this means to me. I said, why? He said, you're the first person that's ever paid me back anything. And I said, well, you know, that's the way it's supposed to be. And he ran upstairs. I went back outside and sat at the table, and he came out about 15 minutes later, and he said, here, I want you to take this bag. And I said, no, it's yours. I said, you know, I appreciate what you did, and I'll pay you back the rest of it as soon as I can. He said, I don't want your money. He said, you take this back. He said, just the thought of you and that gesture of trying to pay me back, he said, is enough for me. And I said, no, Elvis. I said, that's your money. He said, if you don't take it back, son of a bitch, pardon my English, I'm going to burn it. I said, well, it's your money. You burn it if you want to. And this was a time when he smoked cigarettes, and there was a pack of cigarettes and a lighter on the table, and he picked up the lighter, and he struck it and had it at the corner or edge of the money, and he was going to burn it. And I said, whoa, hold on. If you're going to really burn it, I said, don't do that. Let me have it back, and you ought not burn it. So he handed it back to me. And about 2 months later, he had Alan call me and ask if I wanted to come back to work for him. And I was tired of radio, and I said, yeah, I would. My wife wasn't too happy, but when I went back to work for him, I told his father the first thing. I said, take $25 out of my pay every week until the $300 is paid back. I wasn't going to let it go.
Mm-hmm.
And he did.
And you paid him back?
I paid him back.
Hmm.
But see, that's Elvis knew these things about. I mean, he was aware of these things. Not that he wanted people to pay him back, because most of the times he gave guys money, even if the check said personal loan, it was a gift. The reason he put personal loan on there is.
Okay, Marty also tells that he was at Elvis's talking with guys about his dollar issues when Elvis gave him the first 10 grand. Marty then told Elvis Richard Davis is having money problems too. Well, and that comes from Marty. You're gonna have a fit.
Hi.
Hey.
Somebody said here it was. I thought Vernon fired the guys. Vernon did fire the guys,
Yeah.
but Elvis certainly knew about it. But Elvis kind of hid.
Yeah.
We had talked about that before. He really wasn't good with
Right.
face-to-face stuff like that. But,
And stuff, yeah.
if they didn't do the book, I think Elvis would have taken him back after a while.
I agree with you. 100%. I think he would have just. Elvis was the type that, to me, he was like a missile, and then as it fizzled out, it just went away. It was just a a fleeting thing most of the time. And you're right. I think he would have said, let him go for a little bit, let them think about what they did or whatever they were fired for, and then say, okay, you can come back, but you're not going to do what. I'm not going to say what he would say, but anyway, I agree with you. Yeah, he would have took him back. But that book, I think, hurt him more than anything else. I don't think there's anything that hurt him as far as that type.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
All right, let's see what else Marty's got to say.
For tax reasons. When I became foreman and I was the one who wrote the checks out, that was the first thing I was told by him, by his father, and by Bill Fisher, the accountant at the time. When Elvis gives anybody money, any of the guys money, you write personal loan on there. It's not a loan, it's a gift, but we need that for tax reasons. Because when you put personal loan on there, you don't have to pay gift tax.
Sure.
And that was the money that Priscilla sued me to try to get back from me.
That remark kind of brings up a kind of a side note. They used they wanted the deductions for the charity, but I've always read that Elvis never did deductions. He just fought. He just believed he didn't see the worth. But Vernon was probably the one that did the taxes. Probably did them anyways. But
Oh, I don't think.
I've always read that Elvis didn't that he didn't file. He didn't file long form.
I don't think Vernon did the taxes because personally, I think Vernon was stupid.
Yeah.
I can't see
Well,
him.
what I mean is he handled it with whoever.
Oh,
That's what I meant. Yeah. I don't think he was good with saving paperwork, but he has no clue what he had. I hate to say that, but he was a simple guy.
And she didn't get anything?
Huh?
She didn't get anything?
No.
No, like she didn't have enough.
She fooled with the wrong guy. Because I countersued her. As soon as I countersued her, she dropped the suit. But she was going to use me as a test case against all the guys. She's a lovely person.
I got a question for you. Aloha from Hawaii. Was 1973? Okay. The gentleman is talking to Elvis before the concert or something. It was a promo they did for it. Elvis seems a little bit under the weather when he's talking to the guy. What was going on there? They later said that he had a toothache.
Elvis took sleeping pills.
Uh-huh.
Elvis took sleeping pills to go to sleep. And the sleeping pills, unfortunately, hadn't worn off by the time he did that interview, because you got to understand that we used to stay up all night and sleep during the daytime.
Elvis time.
Yeah. And the rehearsals were even at night. So, unfortunately, they scheduled that interview a little too early. And anybody who has taken sleeping pills knows the feeling.
Uh-huh.
That's what that was.
That's what that was.
Because, quite frankly, for 2 weeks straight, before Aloha, Elvis stayed off of just about everything with the occasional sleeping pill because he needed it because he would get wound up so much. I mean, that's what that business does to you. I mean, I took sleeping pills. Most of the guys took sleeping pills because you get so wound up, and then especially when you stay up all night, you're really wound up. Sometimes you get too tired that you can't sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had to have that so that we would be able to function the next night. We had to have our rest. A lot of entertainers do the same thing. The problem is when you start abusing that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
When you start taking too much. And that's what happened with Elvis, on different stuff at a different time.
Yeah, that interview to me, he appears just groggy to me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't appear like his eyes weren't glassy like if he'd been on some kind of medication other than just sleeping pills. Because I've seen that interview so many times, and I've always looked at his eyes while he's doing it, and just the whole mannerisms. I've just always felt he was just groggy. It's just like the interview he did for when they announced it in Las Vegas for the Aloha from Hawaii, he was wearing that white outfit. He had just finished one show, and then Parker scheduled that in between shows, and the guy was exhausted. He didn't even have time to go up and rest before the second show, and that's how he looks, worn out.
I can see how people would have thought that though, because he's
I
not something, but yeah.
Yeah. No, people that don't know him or much about him, that's the first impression that they get. It seems like all those interviews like that, there was always something that preceded that would cause him to be in that kind of condition,
Well, he was a severe. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
He was a severe insomniac, and he took all those sleeping pills. And there's one thing with sleeping pills: after a while, they stop working on you.
Oh yeah,
You
yeah,
know?
and they stop fairly quick.
Yeah.
In that interview he did when he got to Houston, right after when the first time he went to Houston, people said he was high, and he was kept coughing and all that, but people don't stop to think about one thing. He had just left Vegas after doing 57 shows. All right, just finished that engagement. He goes down to Houston, and he leaves that dry temperature and goes into Houston with humidity. What that does to a person's voice and his condition in that extreme culture change, and that's what it sounds and looks like.
With some of the things that Marty said here, I don't know. I feel a little bit that he's putting himself. I mean, come on now. Just by listening to it, you can. But because somebody just said that they doubt anything that Marty says. I don't know. I think 90% of what Marty says is true.
Yeah, I haven't found really too much. I think it seems to me more like he elaborates and sensationalizes a few things. The base story's true, but you've turned Mayberry into Gone with the Wind or something like that. Kind of a dumb analogy, but
Works.
yeah, it works. I got it. I guess. All right.
That particular instance, that's basically what that is. I know I've heard people talk about that before.
Right.
He was stone out of his mind when he did the interview because he slurred his words because the sleeping pills had not worn off.
Mm-hmm.
They did that interview too early in the day for him, and they shouldn't have.
Yeah. Now,
which scuttles another fallacy about Colonel Parker saying after Elvis died that he didn't know about Elvis's drug problem. And by drugs, I mean primarily prescription drugs.
Mm-hmm.
Parker knew. Parker didn't give a damn as long as Elvis could get on the stage.
Mm-hmm. Marty, were you ever around when Elvis shot off his pistol?
That what?
Were you ever around when Elvis took out his gun and shot something?
Was I ever around?
Yeah.
Yeah, I ducked a lot of times.
What was that? He just like to psych you guys out by doing shit like that?
Elvis felt that he was invincible.
Did he really? Nothing could touch him.
I've heard that.
He could get away with doing anything he wanted because he was Elvis Presley.
And he could.
Basically could. And that's why if he didn't like something, he just, because he always had a gun on him, he just whipped out the gun and shot it.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
All of you guys carried guns?
Yeah. No, I wouldn't say all, but most of us did.
Okay. I'm going to ask you another...
We were all special deputies in the
Right.
Shelby County Sheriff's Department, and we all had guns. We all had to go through firing range,
Did you?
testing, and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let's just spell a rumor here. Yeah, let's see what you got to say. Nancy, he didn't shoot the TV because of Robert Goulet. He just happened to be on the TV, but it had something. I think it was due to the reception of the TV or something was happening with the TV. I forget who told the story about that. I just heard it the other day.
Do we really know that he disliked Robert Goulet, and why?
Well, no, he didn't. That's the whole thing. The story's out there that because Robert Goulet happened to be on the TV when he shot the TV, it went into one of those stories that he shot it because Robert Goulet was not a very emotional singer. All these stories started coming out, you know, and I forget who was telling the story. I was watching it on some documentary. One of the people that would have been there. It may have been Jerry Schilling that told it. But he said the TV was the reception. They couldn't get the reception right. So he shot it. But that's from somebody. But I've heard it both ways. But I've heard it more that it wasn't true that it was because of Robert Goulet. Anyway, I would have shot it because of Robert Goulet.
Because unfortunately, you never knew when some nutcase would try something with Elvis.
Do you remember any death threats?
I remember death threats, but nothing ever materialized. You know, there was one in Vegas, two in Vegas, but nothing really materialized. And you know,
did it shake Elvis up when there were threats?
Yeah, it bothered him. It bothered him because, one, he couldn't understand why anybody would want to kill him. He didn't do anything to anybody.
Right.
And two, it bothered him because he was Mr. Law and Order. And,
was he?
And he didn't understand why somebody wanted to be a criminal and do something like that. But basically what both of them were extortion plots. That's all they were.
Mm-hmm.
But the guy never got money, and they never caught him.
Yeah. I've got a question for you. You need not answer it if you don't want to. What years did Larry Geller work for Elvis?
Oh, that's real easy. 64 to 67.
64 to 66.
And then he came back in 76. See, Larry's got a problem, like a few others do. They have a problem exaggerating their time with Elvis and the relationship with Elvis. Larry came to Vegas after 67 in 72 with Johnny Rivers. Neither one of them were invited. Okay? But they came to see the show, and then, of course, they wanted to come backstage. So evidently, Larry is counting that as coming back in 72. But I was around Elvis up until late 76, fall of 76. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't there in 72 when Larry came with Johnny Rivers, who Elvis didn't like either. But when they got home, Elvis and the guys told me about Larry showing up with Rivers.
Mm-hmm.
From the time Geller was let go in 67, he says he quit, but he was really let go because Parker got rid of him. until 76. I never saw, well, actually, I wasn't there after 76 when Geller showed up. I never saw Larry Geller on tour in Memphis, in LA, in Vegas, nowhere. None of the guys saw him. I've asked them because I've read what Larry has said and here and there. And Larry is basically a nice guy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like how Larry tried to fill Elvis's head with all that California, as I put it, California cult crap, because that's exactly what it is. He dislikes it when I call it that. But I've seen these people in California, basically that's what it is, who in my opinion, they're weak-minded people, you know, and they'll follow anything and anybody. See, one time, I'll give you an example. When Geller was working for Elvis as his hairstylist, we were going to L.A., and this is when Elvis had the Dodge motorhome, before we had the big bus, and before he didn't get the airplane till later, in the 70s. And Elvis was driving, and Larry and I were standing behind Elvis. We were talking, and once again, Larry steered the conversation to religion, and yada, 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 yada. And Elvis knew, and I knew, and a couple of other guys knew, that Larry had an ulterior motive. So all of a sudden, Larry says, you know, Elvis, with how the fans love you and follow you and yada, yada, you could be a great messenger with a religious message. And first of all, I knew that was embarrassing Elvis. I knew that's not what Elvis wanted. And I said to him, Larry, you need to get off of that. I said, Elvis is not a messenger. He's not going to put on a robe and lead people through the desert, okay? I said, Elvis influences people in some way. His message comes through his music. That's why people love Elvis. And that's why they're fans of his. And he's not some religious messenger, and I doubt that he ever will be. Elvis is sitting there. And Larry starts in again. I said, Larry, I'm just telling you, you need to leave it alone, change the subject. And so Larry looks at Elvis and he says, well, you know, don't you think? And Elvis just looked at Larry. He said, Larry, Marty's right. Just change it. My message comes through my music, and that's the way it will always be. Because what Larry was after was for Elvis to be this great new messenger, this leader, and guess who his assistant was going to be? And guess who was going to...
You're making me laugh. So...
God, I hate that. No, okay. Oops, Larry's very theatrical and makes things dramatic.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's a little spirited conversation going on here. You guys are fine. Just remember how we maintain things here. So everybody's got an opinion, but I welcome the chat. So you guys are, you know, but I am watching it. So we all love each other here in this community. So all right, Joe. What?
I forget now. Now Sutton said, "Hey Joe, hey," laughing. Memphis Mafia were definitely theatrical. The majority of the Memphis Mafia was there to get as much as they could for Elvis. You know, he was saying that, I meant to say something way back, but he was saying that he didn't get a lot of money, he had a family and that, then he got a car 6 years afterward, sell the car.
Yeah.
Sell the car.
Yeah, that's a great point. I did not even think about that. Yeah, if you need the money and you really didn't want a gift, there's your opportunity to pay some bills if you're not making enough. But Sonny made a point earlier. If you weren't happy with the pay, find a job where you could get more money. You won't have all the other expenses paid for anymore, so life's going to totally change. I don't know what $45 a week equals to today. I would say it's probably a couple $100. But when you stop and think about a couple hundred, today nobody can live off a couple $100 a week. But if you got everything else paid for, $200 is almost pocket money.
I can't believe anybody ever left Elvis at all. I mean, could you imagine leaving that job? No way.
I would have almost paid Elvis to let me work for him. you know, I'll give you a stipend, Elvis. Here you go. Thanks. I'm talking to Marty to leave Larry alone just in case anyone thought I was talking to them. Oh, yeah, Yeah, I don't know of anybody in that group that liked Larry. Larry was kind of that outsider that was interfering with certain aspects of Elvis's life that they weren't too private for them. They wanted to know it all. That's just what I'm thinking. Okay.
Raise all this money, through religion, just like most religions do. Because that's what, I don't want to get into this because that's what most organized religion is to me. It's nothing but money and power. If you believe in God, you don't need all that stuff.
Okay.
And I strongly believe in God. And that we're all children of God. But that's another. I don't even want to get into that. It's just personal belief and philosophy.
Well, I'm going to have to change the tape here in a minute again, but I want to ask you, probably get in one short question on here. The 24-karat gold Cadillac that was made, did Elvis at the 24-karat gold Cadillac that George Barris made that's now in the Country Hall of Fame, did Elvis even ever drive that thing around?
Yeah, for a short time.
He really did. I don't think...
but it wasn't a 24-karat gold. I mean, it was gold flecks and all that stuff, but the outside was white with the gold flecks in it.
Right.
And Elvis got a kick out of it. It had a loudspeaker system where he could talk to people outside the car. And of course, back then in the 60s, that was something that was space age at the time.
Yeah.
And but that was just short-lived, and that's why it was put in there.
Yeah.
That car, touring made more money than a lot of artists do.
Yeah, I can't. But you don't even see a picture of Elvis driving it. I mean, and I questioned if he even drove it.
He not so much drove it as sat in the back.
Really? So you remember that car sitting in the back of Graceland?
Oh yeah, I rode in the car with him.
How'd it ride?
Cadillac limousine.
Yeah. Wow.
All right.
Yeah. There were pictures of that car in back of Graceland and that, and in front of Graceland too. That car was always white, and it just needed to be worked on in that, and that became the Golden Cadillac. But I have one thing: I think that Cadillac should be a Graceland.
Yeah, I've seen it once on one of the tours that was on. Can't even tell you when I saw it. And it was been since he died, but I don't think it was long after. So when the popularity was, he was just popular again, and people wanted to touch anything that Elvis had, and it came through St. Louis, I think, is where I was at, or maybe I was in Nashville. But anyway, the sucker was. They had to put steel bars to keep it from going like that in the center. It was so long, and it was just. But it was beautiful. That gold just shined, and it was really cool because it had a record player, and an 8-track, and I don't know if it had the 8-track. Maybe it did have an 8-track. It had a cassette player. Kind of cool. And they showed how it wasn't like a record player where you just take it down and put the needle on there. It was kind of a cartridge, almost like a cartridge thing. It was really cool.
Almost like a CD player. You put the 45
That's
in it
yeah.
drew. And I got a really cute story about that. It's on my Yvonne Craig interview. Elvis took while they were doing the movie. Elvis took her out and picked her up in the 24 karat Cadillac. So she actually she looks at the car. He opens the door and she gets in, and that it had plush carpet. And
Yeah.
she sat down and you went around, and she just burst out laughing. And he said, "What's going on?" She says, "This is ridiculous." And then he agreed. He says, "Yeah, I know." So, can you imagine sitting? To me, it's extremely gaudy.
Yeah.
Not the outside. I mean, the inside is very gaudy.
It's it to me something like that's not Elvis. It's a car like look at me. Look at me. Everywhere I go, people are going to turn their heads. All of his other stuff, and he's on his bikes or around Memphis. But if you get out of Memphis, on any of the other vehicles had, most people wouldn't turn their head. Maybe the Stutz, maybe the Stutz, or a trike or something like that. But would they know it was Elvis driving it? In Memphis, it was really popular. But anywhere he drove that white Cadillac, no matter where it was, they know it would be Elvis. So it's just one of those prestige things that doesn't fit Elvis. And I don't know, some people. Let's see. Let me see before we start the last one. I'm talking. So boy, am I behind? 26.
Yep, yeah, I agree, Larry. Above those.
We haven't. You guys aren't going to get blocked. Don't
What?
worry. The only way you get blocked is if you rude and call somebody names. That's the only reason why I would block you on a conversation, guys. So just having, I entertain the spirited conversations. I don't allow it when it gets to the point where you guys are just barking at each other. Um, just be civil. Everybody's got a right to an opinion, and what really matters is I'm the only one that's right. So no, I'm just kidding.
Is there a fight going on or something that I'm not seeing?
No, they're having a discussion about who's better, Larry or who they would take, and it's a nice conversation. It's some great opinions. So I've been watching it just to make sure it doesn't go anywhere, and it's not. You guys don't have to worry about it, but just first, Rick, this was a nod to another channel. Oh, yeah, yeah. All right. We're unless you guys got anything other questions before we get into the last part. This one's about 30 minutes long, I believe it is. And I gotta tell you, we've watched what 3 45 minute or so that's an hour and a half. That's almost 2.5 hours. Um, and it's gone by like that. It's just Marty's is a great interview, and of course the other ones have been too. So I look forward to some more of the Elvis community as we move along. Go, pop them in here now and then. Rick is very tolerant. You guys haven't been here at certain times. Well, like I got rid of that guy that made the remark, the racist remark. He didn't last. It was gone. All right, guys. Here, we are going to go to part 4. Marty Lacer.
Why did you leave in 1967?
Well, as I told you, the atmosphere was changing.
Oh, I'm sorry, 1976.
67.
67.
When I quit working for him
Okay.
on the payroll, but that's not when I stopped being with him.
Okay, yeah, okay.
In 67, the atmosphere changed. Priscilla was trying to, unfortunately and stupidly trying to change Elvis. And it got to the point, all she wanted was her and Elvis and Joe and Joni. And, excuse me, and Jerry Schilling and his wife, because Jerry Schilling and his wife, Sandy, at the time, were attached to Joe and Joni.
Mm-hmm.
And they did Priscilla's bidding, where most of the rest of us wouldn't. And I got tired of it. Plus the fact I was away from my family too much, and I didn't need to do that, if I had to put up with that. The others were getting a little tired of it too.
Joe, what did you think of Marty?
I believe a lot of what he said, and some of it I didn't believe. But he seemed like a nice guy, but I've never met him.
Yeah.
They're gonna put on a fake face, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Thanks, Patty. If I don't catch your question, do it again. But I think that those red question marks are really helping out to catch them. All right, here we go.
Billy and Joe in particular, and they left shortly after I did. But Billy and Joe Smith, that is, not Joe Esposito. And at the same time, and just coincidentally, there was a company here called Pepper Tanner that was a big bartering company. They basically, what they did is they used to make jingles for radio stations and advertising. And for the radio stations, they would trade the jingle for time on those radio stations. Then they'd turn around and take that time and sell it to advertisers. It's a pretty good deal they had. It turned out to be a big company. And one of the owners came to me, and who I got to know, and asked if I would start a record company for him. He wanted to get in the record business because that's, Memphis was really hot back then.
Mm-hmm.
And he made me a good offer, and I said, yeah, I'll do it. And I told Elvis, and we were in the dining room, and I said, I hate to do this, but I'm going to have to leave, and I've got this offer, and I'm under. And his first remark to me was, well, what if I need you? I said, well, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to be here in town. You know how to get a hold of me. I said, plus, I'll be coming up as much as I can. He said, well, I would hope.
I think this interview doubled up because I swore I remember him saying the same exact thing, didn't he?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, because this is the one that was marked for, but I think this part right here, it seems like it's. He said this before at the end of the second tape.
Yeah, we're gonna have to search for the ending then, because I don't want people to have to hear it all over again.
Yeah. Well, we can. Let's go a little bit further. See if he's just repeating himself on something. But yeah, you're right. I was sitting here thinking, I've heard that.
And I said, yeah. Well, it turned out that for the next 9 years, I was with him almost every night in Memphis when he was there, him and the guys. And he acted like I was still working for him. A lot of time, which he didn't particularly like, Joe would stay back in California where he had a house, an apartment. His wife, instead of staying in Memphis. And that didn't sit too well with Elvis. So Elvis started, he just kept asking me to do things as I would have if I was still the foreman.
Did you want to see if there's another tape?
Do you think it's going completely by? Because a little bit, I think it's different.
Yeah, I mean, it's only 25 minutes long, so let's just play it through. And, I always like listening to other stuff. But, I think you're right, because it seems to be getting a little, I remember the other part being when he was already established and trying to get him to go to American Sound. The last part, but it sounds almost like the same conversation, but he's here talking about, I don't know. I've heard this story, though, this part of it before. And I don't know if it was from I just tested out the video to see how it was playing. I'm old.
Oh, see, Nancy Simmons is saying this is different. Yeah, I hear a little bit here and there. I think even with Marty, they've said these stories so many times that they can't help but repeat themselves.
Well, you're 3 hours into a conversation, too, so it's just like, was this all done at one time?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, it could be very well. Let's just continue on. It's no harm, no foul. I could always listen to him again. Play the
and
hell
then,
out of
he
it.
had asked me if I want to go on some of the tours, and to Vegas. I went to the opening in Vegas in '69 and was out in Vegas on almost every engagement for at least a week because I had a business to take care of back in Memphis.
Mm-hmm.
Anyhow, I started the record company. First record I cut, I produced this local group. It was what we called a baby hit, and I had help from Isaac Hayes and David Porter in producing it, and they had written a song. Then I discovered Rita Coolidge
Ooh.
and produced her first hit on it and got her known out on the West Coast, which led to her becoming a big recording artist. Shortly after that, because I had been doing some of the sessions at American, and I got to know Chips and the musicians and everything, and Chips got to know me real good, and he asked me to come over and run the studio for him, which I did in 1969, about 2 or 3 months after Elvis did the session. Because I got to know Chips and them, I talked Elvis into recording there. I think we covered that last.
Right. Yeah.
And that's why I left. In '76, he just decided that he wanted to have more privacy, and he was really getting a little messed up, and I think he just didn't want some of us to see him that way because we knew better than those young guys did. Because that's basically was with him, with the exception of Esposito and Billy and Lamar. The rest of them were these young guys like a couple of the Stanley brothers, and Dean Nicopolis, and a couple of Dean's friends. And, of course Elvis didn't look upon them the way he looked upon us. He told Billy that. He said, it's not the same. He said, and I don't trust these guys like I did the old guys. And he said, Billy said, he asked me, he said, Elvis asked Billy, he said, well, why is it that way? And Billy looked at him, he says, well, Elvis, you're the one that chased those guys away.
I don't know if I remember this part. This is part a little bit new to me.
Yeah, this is all new.
Yeah. I don't remember this part, so that's cool. Yeah, he was just rehashing the story or kind of rolling it into. Cool.
Yeah.
So he didn't chase me away. Basically, he had done these shows in Memphis, and about 4 or 5 days later, I called up the house to see what was going on, and Billy answered the phone, and he said, I'm glad that you called instead of just trying to come to the gate and not being let in. I said, what? He said, well, Elvis just wants some privacy. He wants, he just wants to spend time without a whole bunch of guys around. And, he said the only thing he's going to have, he said, because Billy and his family were living out there anyway. And Billy was like a younger brother to Elvis. He was more like a younger brother than a cousin.
And he would be interesting to talk to.
And Elvis wanted him there. He was probably the closest person to Elvis in the last year or so of his life. And he said the only thing only people Elvis won't hear is the young guys working in shifts. He said he just wants one guy here at the house, and they can work in shifts in case he needs them to go do something for him. Other than that, he wants everybody to basically stay away. And the first thing I said to Billy, I said, well, good. I said, I wish he would have done that years ago. Because, see, he was the one that always wanted everybody there. And, like I said, even though I didn't work for him, he wanted me there almost every day. And that's how all that happened. And that was shortly after he had fired. He had Vernon fire Sonny and Red and Dave.
Really? Huh. But Marty, why
he was going to fire a few other people. He was going to fire Dick Grove.
Was it?
But Billy talked him out of it because he told Elvis he needed some security when he went on tour. And Elvis had told him before the last tour that never happened. The last tour when Elvis died, so it didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
He had asked Billy if he could handle the foreman's job, and he said because he was going to fire Joe after that tour. And Billy told him, he said, well, if that's what you want me to do, I can handle it. Ain't no problem, because Billy was basically acting as a foreman all those months because Joe was out in California.
Right. Right. Marty, why was there a Memphis Mafia? Why did Elvis need all these guys? Why was there a Memphis Mafia? I mean, was it...
It's very simple.
Okay.
Because of the tact that was created in the early years by Parker of keeping Elvis away from the public.
Mm-hmm.
And because Elvis became such a phenomenon that Elvis couldn't go out in public. It was really worse in the early years than it was later.
Mm-hmm.
He couldn't go out in public, and so that's what started him staying inside at the house. And you've got to have people to talk to.
Right.
You know? You can't sit there and look at four walls or you know, talk to a maid or a housekeeper or one or two people for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
So he picked and chose friends and picked and chose people who were around him for a good while that he learned from being around them that they could be trusted, number one, and number two, that he enjoyed being around and they enjoyed being around him.
Mm-hmm.
He missed on a couple of people, but for the most part, you know, most of the original guys were good for Elvis, and he was good for us.
Okay.
And like I said, we were all young in the beginning, so we all grew up together.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because we were all kids in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
That's why he needed a Memphis Mafia, and I can tell you this, and some of the other guys will tell you the same thing. If he didn't have a group of guys around us, like us, didn't have to necessarily be the individuals who were there, but not have a group around to function the way we function, for him and with him, he probably would have died a lot earlier than 77.
Mm-hmm. Marty, did Elvis spend as much time in his bedroom as much as they let on?
In the bedroom?
In his bedroom, yeah. And they kind of make it sound like he spent the majority of his life in his bedroom.
Here's what it was, is during the movie years, of course, he went to bed earlier, although, except for the weekends. The weekends, we stayed up all night, slept during the day. During the week, when he was making movies, he had to get up at 4:30 in the morning, 5 o'clock, to be at the studio in time to go do makeup, and so he worked all day. And then we came home, we sat around, had supper, sat around and talked. If he was tired, he'd go in his room. And, of course, a lot of times when he went in his room during the movie years, he rehearsed, you know, and read the lines for the next day. And maybe the rest of us, some of us would, you know, if we wanted to, go out to a club or something like that. In Memphis, when we got home from Hollywood, he'd stay in his room about 3 or 4 days just to unwind.
Mm-hmm.
But then we'd get into a routine of sleeping during the daytime and staying up all night again. We'd either go to the fairgrounds or go roller skate or go to the movies movies, the Memphian, all night long. And the later years, the roller skating was gone, and the fairgrounds were gone. Didn't do either one of them. So we went to the movies a lot, or we'd sit around and talk.
Play pool.
Sometimes we play pool, but the fallacy that he just holed up in his bedroom, that's
Okay.
he just had different hours than other people.
Yeah. Well, that's why I wanted to ask.
when he went on tour, it would be the same thing because the shows were at night, so he'd sleep most of the day, and then when we'd come home, once again he would stay up in his room, but of course he had a suite of rooms up there. It wasn't just
I agree with Helen here, and that's the way I've always thought. There were times when he would go to his room and stay there for maybe many days. That doesn't mean he holed up the rest of his the remainder of his life. It just means that was his only sanctum he could go to, and nobody could pester him. If he said to everybody, "You guys don't come up here, I don't want to see you," damn well better follow what he says. So to me, that was his sanctum. That was his sanctuary. To get away from everything. And you know what? I could imagine saying he going up there and then just chilling for a week. Get away from it all.
It's kind of slow. I mean,
Yeah.
kind of small. I would get a little freaky.
Yeah.
I mean, I know he had his office and that up there, but
Yeah.
I crazy.
Yeah, I would imagine it probably got to the point where he's starting to feel holed in now and that's the time to get up. The majority of his life is spent in open spaces, and then he could just maybe he one of those people that felt like the small places felt like an arm around him, or some kind of a comfort level. Oh, it's interesting though, but yeah, I've never thought of him as what was the term recluse. I never thought of him as that.
No.
one room, and he'd stay up there for about 4 or 5 days and unwind. Then he'd come down and start functioning again like we always do. And here's another fallacy.
Okay.
Okay, what's that? There, I missed it almost. Were people aware how sick he was in the last 2 years? Did Elvis believe he was sick as he was? And I guess this is a three-part. Did he refuse medical help like some have said? I don't know how to answer that. I'll just give you my opinion, but you don't. It wouldn't hold water. Were people aware how sick he was the last 2 years? I would say yeah. I mean, all you had to do was I was aware when I saw the Elvis in concert special. I knew right then that no wonder he died. So I would take to the people. So I would say, Lori, yeah, I would. Did Elvis believe he was sick as he was? He had to have a gut feeling, and that's not. There's no. That's kind of a bad phrasing because of his issues, but I'm sure he was very aware. To what extent? I don't think he thought it was to the point where he would be dying anytime soon, given the fact that he was preparing for another tour and was excited about it. And did he refuse medical help?
I
I,
don't.
I think, I think, yeah, I don't think so. But I also know that some people, me included, there's some things I refuse to do because I don't think I need it. But with him, I don't think he ever refused anything. I think no matter how he felt, how sick he was, he still had a will to live.
Yeah, I would say that.
Yeah. Um. I'm trying to see if I can. I heard Mary Jenkins said sometimes he would stay in his room or just go to the hotel and get away. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, hey, cat girl. Yeah. Yeah. Elvis never refused medical help. Yeah. Thank you.
You
So
know,
go ahead. Go ahead, Joe.
he had a refrigerator upstairs in his room. One of the girls at an interview said how she would go up every morning and stock it, so he wouldn't have to go downstairs and stuff. And yeah,
Yeah. He
yeah,
just there was no need for him to even leave his room because he had room service,
Yeah.
basically, and like you said, if he would he would even have to have them come up if he had the refrigerator up there. So yeah, I don't think it's strange if he went to his room for 5 days to get away from everything, given what the kind of life he had. All right, let's get back to this.
And people will say Elvis was a prisoner in his own home. Elvis Presley went out whenever he wanted to,
Okay.
wherever he wanted to. He just got to a point where a lot of times he didn't want to go. But if he wanted to go, as an example, there are times he wanted to go shopping. Well, we'd either call the store and ask them if they'd hold it open after they closed, and if they wouldn't do that, then he'd go up there with about 3 or 4 or 5 of us, and he'd go, he'd do shopping and look around and buy stuff, and he never refused an autograph. We were just around to be sure that nobody did something stupid.
Uh-huh.
But if someone came up to him, said hello, shook his hand, he'd shake their hand, he'd talk to him, they asked for an autograph, he'd give them an autograph. If they wanted to take a picture with him, he'd take a picture with them.
Did you ever find a lot of people that would...
I'll back that up here a second. When they talk about him getting the store, the very first job I had, full-time job I had, was working at Sears Roebuck, which you don't see really that many of, I don't think, around anymore. But I worked in there, and there was a lady that worked up in the appliance department. Wish I could remember her name, but she had transferred down from Memphis. And so she knew I was an Elvis fan and all that. She said, yeah, she said she used to see him all the time. She'd grown up in Memphis. And she used to work in the Sears up there. And they would call to ask to keep the store open. And she would be one of the attendants. And she got to know him because she worked in the jewelry department. And so, so she was telling me that, yeah, I used to get pictures. I got pictures of me with them, and I got a few autographs. And then I started thinking this lady is BSing me. Next day, she brought and showed me all the photos of her with Elvis standing behind the counter. She has some great shots of him. She showed me the autograph that she had on something from Sears Roebuck, and it's really cool. So she used to have some pretty cool stories. She said Bobby remembered like 5 or 6 times that he came and did that while she was working there. It was just like nobody else, like any other customer at the time.
up to him because they'd hear, oh, Elvis gave a car
just a few
to
seconds here.
And he'd go, he'd do shopping and look around and buy stuff, and he never refused an autograph. We were just around to be sure that nobody did something stupid.
Uh-huh.
But if someone came up to him, said hello, shook his hand, he'd shake their hand, he'd talk to him, they asked for an autograph, he'd give them an autograph. If they wanted to take a picture with him, he'd take a picture with them.
Did you ever find a lot of people that would come up to him because they'd hear, oh, Elvis gave a car to a black woman on the corner of the street? Did you ever see people trying to get something from Elvis?
Well,
I like that ring, Elvis. Oh, I've always wanted one. I mean, did you see that shit happen, or?
the problem is that people who, and I hate to say this, there was a couple of guys who used to do that when Elvis would buy something, like a ring or something. Man, Elvis, that's really pretty. Because they were hoping that he'd take it off their finger and give it to them.
And it wasn't people on the street.
Once or twice he did that. But I have to believe that he knew what they were doing. Now, the interesting part about people asking him for things is if, because I did this for 2 weeks at the end of '62, Billy and I came home for Thanksgiving and Christmas. Elvis wanted to stay in Vegas, and Billy and I wanted to come back with our families. So for 2 weeks until he got back in February, January and February, I worked out in the office. I didn't work. I just sat out there. And I used to read the fan mail. And I tell you what, some of those letters were unbelievable. Vernon, in particular, liked to keep some of the pictures that the girls sent him.
Oh, really?
A lot of them didn't have any clothes on.
Goodness.
But I used to read these letters. There was this one guy who used to write every week. And evidently there was something wrong with him. He said, "Dear Cousin Elvis," I remember it almost word for word. "I went by the furniture store today and I told him what you told me about picking out furniture for bedrooms and that to send you the bill. And the guy started to give me a problem. He wouldn't let me do that. He said, but, I really do appreciate you saying that you'd buy that furniture for me. And I got it all picked out. And all I need for you to do is either call that furniture company or send me a check for $2,000 so I can get that furniture.
Mm-hmm.
Your cousin Tony."
And this guy used to write every week?
Yeah, Elvis didn't have a cousin Tony.
Hey, Marty, when did you hear that Elvis had passed away?
Well, in May, I believe it was March or May of '77, I decided to get away from Memphis. I had already cleaned up off the pills that I had been taking. I wasn't taking that anymore. I just wanted to clear my head and clear the air. So my family and I moved out to Irvine, California, which is just below Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And
Racing district.
I was working in food sales, and I had just left the office. And when I turned my car on, the radio automatically came on, and all I heard was, "Lee is dead." And then it went right into an Elvis song. And I said, "No, that's just a coincidence." And I said, "No, it probably ain't got nothing to do with him." But I was wanting the record to hurry up and be over. And when the record was over, the guy said, "Ladies and gentlemen, as I mentioned to you, the king of rock and roll, Elvis Presley, has died today."
August 16th.
At 1 p.m. or whatever it was. And in a way, I wasn't surprised, but in a way, it must have numbed me for a moment, because my car started heading for this damn light pole on the corner, because I wasn't paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, I snapped out of it and grabbed the wheel in time to just pull it back on the road. And the guy kept on talking and then playing some more records. And I zoomed on home. And by the time I lived in this beautiful new planned community, and by the time I turned my corner, my wife and my oldest daughter were out in front of the garage waiting, because they knew I was coming home. And they were crying and upset and asking me if it was true. And I said, "Well, I don't know. Let me park the car and go inside and call." And I called the house, and Graceland and Larry answered the phone. And I said, "Larry, well, what is all this?" And he said, "Marty, it's true. He's gone." And I said, "Who's there?" He said, "Well, Lamar's right here." I said, "Let me talk to Lamar." I didn't want to talk to Larry.
Good old Lamar.
I was in no mood to hear philosophical bullshit. And Lamar got on the phone. He said, "Marty," he said, he's gone. Finally has done it. Meaning, the pills or whatever. And course, I started to choke up, and Lamar just said to me, he said, look, you need to stop that. He said, we got enough of that here. And I said, well, you know, I loved him. And he said, well, you know, we all do. And, that was it. That's how I found out.
Did you go to the funeral?
I was supposed to go. There was a ticket waiting for me at the airport, but my wife, because of what had happened, because she also wasn't feeling good, had a nervous breakdown. And one minute she'd say, go on and go, because I know you need to go. And I had spoken to Joe and Billy the day after. They knew. I told them I was coming, and they had a plane ticket waiting for me at the airport. And every time I'd go to the door, she'd start screaming and say, no, please don't leave. And then 10 minutes later, she'd say, I know you need to go. You know, that's what happens when people have a breakdown or what have you.
Right.
And so I had to make a decision, and I'm not proud of this, but for the first time in 20 years, I chose my wife and my family over others. And I mean, what I mean by I'm not proud of it is that I should have chosen them.
Right, I understand.
A lot longer.
He did the right choosing.
Yeah.
Family first.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I can understand how hard it was. But he made the right choice. No, hands down. I wouldn't even second guess that. Especially when you got a wife that has some medical issues, obviously. If he's saying that she had a nervous breakdown or was going into one, so.
Before. But basically, that was the same with all the guys. You know, we gave up a bunch of our family lives. It was us doing it, not him. You know, to be around him because we cared that much.
Right.
And but I didn't go, and in a way, I have said this for 30 years. In a way, I'm glad I didn't, because I didn't want to see him laying in that casket. I would rather remember him the way I remember him, with a big smile on his face, because Elvis had a smile that could light up a room. And that's really the way I remember him.
Yeah. There's something else I wanted to ask you. Do you, right after Elvis had passed away, of course, Ginger Alden was saying that, you know, here's his, it was all over the news, you know, that his fiancée. Do you know if Elvis ever asked her to marry him?
From what Billy and Lamar told me, that he had suggested it and asked in a way, but he had absolutely no intention of marrying her. As Elvis told Billy, he said, I said we'd get married, but I never said when.
Yeah.
She was nothing but I never met Ginger. I'm going by what the guys tell me and what other people have told me, Joe Smith. And for my own summation, she was nothing but a trophy for Elvis. And the fact of the matter is that Elvis was getting older. He had gotten sick. He had gotten big. He bloated up. And she was a trophy for him. He wanted, for his own, I guess for his own mind, but he also wanted the guys and other people to see I can still get a good-looking young girl. And that's all that was. They had nothing in common. Ginger wanted to do all the things that Elvis and we had done years and years before that we had no interest in doing before. I heard all she wanted to do was take Elvis to these clubs where her friends hang out so she could show him off. I also have heard, too, that what her mother and the rest of the family wanted was to get stuff from Elvis.
Mm.
And because of his generosity, they did get some things, but that's what they were there for. But she was nothing but a trophy fan. He wasn't going to marry her.
How about Dee Presley?
Who?
Dee Presley? Vernon's second?
I'd rather refer to her as Dee Stanley.
Okay. Oh, she's got another book. Another book out.
Yeah, I saw that on the website today, and I don't know if Lee will allow this kind of language on the radio show, but she's nothing but a piece of shit.
Okay, I don't think he'll mind. I don't think he'll mind. She is nothing but a liar. She's a hustler. This bogus Billy Miller. Yeah.
She and her lovely phony preacher son Ricky tried to get some of us to vouch for Billy Miller, and he's nothing but a scam artist. They were behind Dee, and her boyfriend or husband, or whatever he is Tucker, and Ricky were behind Miller, and they were part of the scam. Anybody, I tell you what, anybody who invested in a movie based on what Deep Stanley tells them, I got some swampland in Florida I'd like to unload on.
Well, Marty, I want to thank you very much for doing this for me and for Elvis Express Radio.
Well, you're quite welcome, and I appreciate the work that you and Lee do in helping to keep Elvis's memory alive. The website is really good. I enjoy, reading it. I read it almost every day, and some of those fans have some interesting comments on
Yes, they do.
some of those stories.
Yeah.
I get a kick out of them, but that's to be expected.
Well, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Joe.
I forgot how good of an interview that was. I'm not patting myself on the back, but wait a minute. Let me pat myself on the back. That was a good interview. What? Can't hear you. Can you hear me? I can't hear you.
That's because it was my turn to forget the mute.
Idiot.
I know. I'm surprised I got this far with it by doing it. But no, it was a fantastic interview. I mean, you did an awesome job. I mean, all the ones I've heard from you have been great, and but I think what made it so easy to listen to too is that you had such a great person to talk to as far as the process of giving an interview. The guy spoke his mind, and whether he enhanced a few things of that, I don't know. I really don't care. I still have the same opinion about Marty now. In fact, I respect him in some other ways. A little disappointed in some things, but you know what? Like we said at the beginning, nobody's perfect.
Yeah. And he's going to get some. A lot of people say, no, this was the date. He's wrong on this date. He's wrong on this date. Look at his age. And God, I can't even tell you the year I was born half the time. You can't
Yeah.
use that. You can't use that as a reason that he's lying.
No, yeah. The only thing, yeah, you're right. On chronological ways, you can get things out of order. It's going to happen, and but as far as the way you could tell when somebody's really bullshitting you by how they're talking. And this guy's just straight out like you're sitting around having a beer at a bar and having a nice chat and talking about life, And he comes across as very, um, he's always been one of my favorite, well, one of the very few favorites out of that group. Um, and one of the main reasons is why is because he got him in American Sound, which I personally think it's the best sessions Elvis ever did.
You know, a lot of other fans too think that these guys, when they left Elvis, they did nothing else. They didn't get jobs in that. Look, Marty did. Lamar Fike went and became a manager and one of the managers at one time for the Beach Boys. They actually did go out and get their own lives. But a lot of fans, they don't want to hear that. You know, they're not with Elvis. They can't live.
Yeah. All right, let me see. So Lori left a question a few minutes ago. I got to find the question. I'm sorry. Oh no. Yeah, I found the sound. I'm a little behind on comments, but so I'll have to find it, Lori, because it got by me. You know what? I'll do this. There we go. I wrote a question. All right. So here's Lori's question: Was Billy and Joe ostracized by others by his the What's Happened book? Billy and Joe ostracized by others by his prior What's Happened book, The Family, Vernon, Lisa, Nash's, Betty Gamble, or The Inmate? Was the book the reason for the Smiths? Okay, I'm totally lost on that question, Lori. I don't know what you're asking.
I was just on on Billy's site, and they said something how he just got tired of it. They
Uh-huh.
lived back in Graceland, and they wanted to have their own lives. You know, things had changed there, obviously, and that's what he said. And you
Oh,
know, I didn't know a lot about Billy and what their site and what they're doing now. And I believe a lot of what he's saying too.
yeah, yeah.
Elvis loved Billy, and Billy loved Elvis. I mean, he was family, and they were close, and he was always there.
And
So.
I say this before. I've said this before about him. He'll go to his grave knowing that he's the fat last man to talk to Elvis. He washed Elvis's hair. So basically, actually he was the last relative to see Elvis alive too. But I have a lot of heartfelt feelings for him. Um, do I agree with everything he has said? All right, let me see if I got. I think I got all the questions. You guys if I missed something, just pop it back in there, guys. But no, once again, great interview. What is that? Oh, that's um, yeah, I enjoyed that. It went by today. Went by quick. That was what 45 plus 30. That's 2 hours and 15 minutes. No, an hour and 15 minutes. That's
Can you
it
can
went
you
by just like that.
can you believe I got him talking that long?
I know, but I asked you if you did it all in one shot. I go, well, holy crap, that's like two and a half,
Yeah.
almost 3 hours. Actually, it was over 3 hours, right? You got 45, 45. That's an hour and a half. You got 45, whatever. It's only two and a half, 3 hours. It's a long time for one
Mhm.
guy to sit there and just tell his life story without really having to be prompted that much. Oh, great.
I think he was having a good time too.
Yeah, well, you make it easy for him too. Make him comfortable. I appreciate that. There's some Cam and I have so many times, and I've just gotten so aggravated at some of the interviewers that have no clue what they're doing, how to
Me,
ask a question, or
I'm not a professional interviewer by far. I'm just a guy that met one person, and that I met this person because of that person. It's just something talks that turned into what people call interviews. And but I'm certainly not a professional interviewer.
I
Trust me.
think I think you're a great conversationalist. That's what it is. It's just you and I were on the phone one day for God knows how long we were on, about an hour, hour and a half. That one time when we first talked on the phone,
Seemed like
and
20 minutes.
we have great conversations.
I got a question for you, not about Marty, and I'm not trying to get political, but what'd you think about the visitor at Graceland?
when I think about it, I know he's always been a fan. I've always heard him talk about Elvis. You know, he awarded him the Medal of Freedom, I think it was. Um, I, I, I think they had too much press there, but I haven't watched the whole process. Only because I get irritated when people try to make something political, and you know, he put his little digs in there. I thought it was good that he went. I thought it was a good thing.
Yeah, I didn't like the press either because when he went from one room to the other
Yeah.
room, they were taking shots through the kitchen. They were, I mean, scrambling through Graceland, and I just wanted to
Yeah.
grab him by the throat. You
Yeah.
know, that killed
I
me.
I know that that Trump made it a little difficult for Angie and for Weinschenker to guide him through because you know how he's always distracted on something else, you know.
Mhm.
Um, but you know I thought they were very respectful to him. He was very respectful as far as the house is concerned. But you're right. That's the thing that really irritated me. When somebody told me that was going on, that's when went back to start watching it. And I watched the part when they went from the room where the living room, and they started going around into the kitchen area. And those, you know, those aren't wide hallways, and
Yeah,
they're banging these old big old huge. Yeah, they
yeah.
just totally respect. And that house is 100 years old
Mhm.
almost, you know. And I know the last time I was there, I went through the front door and I could see where they've had to continually have to keep painting the door jambs, you know. And it's this big old thick, you know. One of these days you're just gonna have to strip it down and repaint it because it's thick on paint. I'm just looking at that, and that's my background. I've always been somebody that checks the details and in buildings, and I looked at that and I go, man, they really wear this thing out. The threshold was needed some work, and I bet you they keep a maintenance guy busy there.
Mhm.
But yeah, I'm with you. I think that the camera crew who are more for the shot and the gotcha question than they were about respecting whose house they were in.
Well, there was one, obviously a TV channel or something doing the main one. Why let all the other ones in? To me, why? And give
Yeah,
one person the exclusive and not have 30 other people.
I agree.
You know, that was just ridiculous. I mean, I'm sorry. I'm not going to say what I think about him or not think about him, but I think it was a promo op. You know, it
Yeah,
made him make every magazine, every news, you know, and all that stuff. And he's everywhere. And a lot of people said that they felt that because of the war, he was trying to get positive
I
press.
I agree with that. I think that too. I do think it was a shot to be able to distract.
Right.
What was I'm trying to. There wasn't anything going on that would relate to Elvis. It was just a stop, right? He was.
Yeah,
I, I forget why he was there. Why was he even there?
it must have
Touting
been planned.
counting the crime rates or something like that.
It must have been planned.
Yeah.
So,
Anyway, um, I uh, I hate stuff like I know that it would have been a lot of people go in there that are famous and they don't go through all that. Of course, he's the president.
mhm,
Anyway, it is. They did it this year. They'll do it. Next president will do it,
mhm.
or whoever. Because I think the last person to go through was W. Bush with the Japanese president.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. One other thing, I was going to keep it from when we do the as you go through Graceland that interview that I did, you know, and
Yeah.
Patsy who worked there for I don't know how many years. God, see the medical thing and it just stole the whole thing out of my mind. Isn't that terrible?
I do that.
That's awful.
We were talking about Bush being there with the Japanese president.
Nobody's going to tell me with that gentleman's ego and other people who have gone upstairs that he didn't go upstairs. I just don't believe it. No one's going to make me believe that he did not go upstairs. No, I
No.
did not have an extended interview with Sheila Ryan. No, no. That's what I believe. I mean, other people that gone up, I know for a fact that when This Is Elvis and that was done, that there were fan club presidents that went upstairs.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm sorry, people. No one else has ever been upstairs. Bullshit. That's bull.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
I've never believed that it's all totally been kept off. I
Right.
mean,
And when I was there, I had one of the managers brought me around because I had that special. They brought me around special, and I asked her about what's upstairs, and she said we use it for stocking files and stuff. She says the only thing that's really upstairs is the bed. That's what she told me. And what do they put out? The everything's still up there, but you see a lot of it in the museum that was upstairs.
yeah, there's a lot of stuff from that
Yeah.
room in the museum, but I find it I find it kind of difficult to believe they use it for storage, considering that the flight of steps they got to go up to carry files and stuff like that. You know, that the just the logistics of that, but also too, yeah, oh, what's her name? Riley speaks about that they stopped there quite a bit just to spend the night, and they spend the night in his room.
Yeah.
So if it's just a bed, I can't imagine, because she says it's kind of like eh, a sanctuary to them, or just she feels a connection somehow. And
Hmm.
I don't think she would feel a connection if she's laying in a bed with a bunch of files around her.
Oh,
But
no.
you never know. You just don't know. Um, at the end of the day, it's their house. They can do what they want to do with it. It's like you know the decision that about having Priscilla buried there. I don't think it'll ever happen. It's not zoned for it now, and Riley would have to go for that, and she could easily get out of that whole deal of agreeing to it.
I think you're going to see it.
Yeah,
Yeah, see, now I have a whole big discussion about that. And like I said before, you worry about pissing people off, but everybody's got their own, you know, um,
yeah,
how many family are you going to put there before they run out? I think they should have a little cemetery next to the meditation gardens where they can put family. Look how many family members there is. You're never going to get them in that meditation garden.
yeah. Well, according to what I understand, it's only zoned for 6 bodies, and they're full. They're all
Oh,
there.
it's the Presleys. They'll be changed.
Yeah, yeah. But Riley would have to be the one to do that. So it just depends upon how much she wants her grandmother to be buried there or not, given the history. I don't know. Yeah, Riley's got her hands full with that whole situation.
You see, Richie Boy said, I thought that was fake with people going upstairs for This Is Elvis.
Yeah, that was real.
They went upstairs.
Yeah, that was absolutely real.
I've seen photos by somebody that was there that you would not believe.
Yeah,
And not upstairs. I'm sure they were really strict. But
yeah.
yeah. Now, who was that one actor? He was a comedian. Elvis really liked him.
Annie Coffin.
Yeah, he went upstairs.
Yeah, Elvis liked his impression of him. He was one of the few impersonators of Elvis. And the nice thing about Coffin was he wasn't an impersonator of Elvis. He did an impersonation of Elvis in his act.
Hmm.
'Cause his act wasn't all about that. But first time I saw him with Johnny Carson, he did that, and my jaw dropped. I go, because he did the song "Any Way You Want Me," and I was like, wow, he does pretty damn good. And then you go right back to that lot Kentucky. It's funny.
Well, somebody just said that. Lisa Marie said it's the same too. You see a lot of it in the museum. A lot of the stuff that's up there is in the museum. And would a family member lie just to keep a myth like this going that no one's ever upstairs and it's his private place and should be kept secret? Yes, I do.
Yeah.
My opinion. Don't hate Rick.
Yeah,
Just
no, that's the nice thing about what we have here is people will voice their opinions, but they don't get disrespectful, and they'll just say, "No, I don't agree with that," and we're all good, fine with that, because they know that I'll bump them if they start getting rude. I don't, I don't need that, and so fortunately, you are always should feel comfortable to say what you feel because we want to hear it. We love hearing everybody's opinions, and it gives us food for thought. That I'm thinking about that now about what you were saying about the people that have been up there, and now I'm curious: are there files up there? I'm gonna have to do an investigative report.
how do you do that? No, I mean, why would she lie to me?
No, there
What,
would be no reason to.
why didn't
Or,
she go
or
buy?
Or
the
maybe it was a temporary situation.
who knows?
Yeah, you never know. Maybe it was something that they moved some stuff around. They were cleaning the house. They didn't have a place to put them at the time before they get through. Maybe it was all before they did all the archives, that Angie built, and they needed some place to store something. And now they're gone.
Yeah,
It- you know, I
but
I'm
she
curious, but
she said everything that was up there was in the archives except the bedroom. I just think it's a myth they keep going because the fans want to hear that. You
yeah,
know, the fans want to hear that. I mean,
yeah, yeah,
I'd
yeah.
love to bring this stuff about Lisa Marie, and I know that'll start trouble. I don't believe Lisa Marie believes as much as she thinks she believes because she's learned so much from other people.
Yeah.
I remember some things at 9 years old, but not as much as she says she. I can see the day that her father died, but she comes up with some of these things I think is just impossible to remember, and how much she remembers. I think she's learned a lot. I mean, you and me, it wouldn't happen because your father is not in magazines all the time. He didn't have a Memphis Mafia with people all over the place. You know, that's what I
Yeah,
believe.
I think a lot of what she remembers is just things that have been told her afterwards.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff, and it depends on who she trusts to know or whether that really happened. Well, yeah, one thing I will give credit for Lisa Marie, and I'm a huge fan of hers. I really don't have anything negative to say about her, given what she's gone through. I think she was an extremely intelligent person,
Hmm.
like Elvis, and I think she was probably pretty good at knowing who was credible and not. And the people who are, she said, were not welcome ever at Graceland, relatives or not, she would have had a pretty damn good reason for that.
Right.
But no,
I
I heard Nicolas Cage went upstairs when Mary. I heard that too. Yeah,
I guess it was Vengelo. I can hardly
yeah,
say.
Jello. Yeah,
Priscilla wanted to be buried next to Elvis. That's why Riley and no bodies will be moved. I would have never seen him putting him next to Elvis anyway, because then
no,
they would have to move all the other bodies to do that. But she said, Riley said, no, she's not being buried there. I thought it was all figured out that she would be buried there.
well, what it is in the settlement, the wording, and Angela could probably tell me because she's probably more familiar with it because her and I talk a lot about some of the projects that I do, and the wording is that she could be buried there as long as it's permitted, type of deal. In other words, she knows that she can't. If Priscilla was to die today, she wouldn't be able to go be buried there because it's not code. Now, Riley would be the one to make the decision to say, I don't want any more done in here because you're going to destroy it. She's got the final say so at that point too.
Right.
That's what I understand. And as far as I'm concerned, if she wants to be buried at Graceland, I've said this before, bury out there with Rising Sun out in the backyard, out in the horse corral. Why would you bury your freaking ex-wife next to have her? Why would she be? It just and too many people call her the widow, and that drives me up a wall.
Well, it's for her ego. She wants to be,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know, forever and have somebody put flowers on her grave every day. And
yeah.
that's all that is. I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
she's married
she'll
to him.
always,
You can see that.
she's in tune forever, right next to the eternal flame.
Well, dude, I have to go.
All right, man. Hey, listen, I appreciate it. This was fun. Like I said, anytime you want to drop in on a Saturday while we're doing something, I'll email you or I'll talk to you sometime during the week and let you know what video I want to do next. I'm going to give them all. What would you recommend next along this fall? You mentioned something a little bit ago. Patty Presley, was that the one, or was it
Oh,
Patty?
Patsy, that would be. We probably should
Patsy.
do some work with that together because she brings you all the way through Graceland, and then she goes upstairs and tells you exactly what she remembers as she sees it's upstairs, and a bullshit story that Graceland came up with, like about that Japanese sword that she had
Oh yeah,
before that.
yeah.
I did the interview and she told me about that Japanese sword. She had found it inside a closet. And then she took it out and gave it to them. And that was way before they came out and told everybody that they found this Japanese sword inside one of the draws way before that. So I already knew about it.
Well, what I'll do is, like I said, anytime you want to pop in while we're doing the show, most of the times, we'll talk beforehand, anyways. But I'm going to send you a link that will let you use the same link every time, whenever you want to, and no matter what studio I'm in. So that way, if you want to pop in, you're welcome just to pop in and chat because you've got some great, you've got some great.
Opinions?
Well, opinions, yeah, I love opinions, and details, and a lot of food for thought, man. Like I told you today in the email, I've learned a lot from you, not only just learned, but the biggest thing is you've given me some food for thought for things. I want to look into that a little bit more. That's kind of a great opinion, and this Marty Lacker one opened my eyes to a lot of things, and it makes me appreciate him more as to this interview as being at least straightforward.
All right.
But thanks, man. Hey, listen, I'll talk to you later during the week, and we'll go from there. I appreciate it, man. We enjoyed it. Everybody here loved it.
It was nice talking to you guys. You all take care. Have a good day. Bye, Rick.
Bye bye. Talk to you.
Come on.
Well, what y'all think? That was cool, huh? I wonder if y'all could hear me. I enjoyed that. A lot of I like that Marty Lacker interview. So I'm gonna go through. I'll talk to him, but we'll do some more interviews from Joe next week, and we'll cover several different ones. All right, guys. Well, with 2.5 hours, I think I'm going to call it. I got to get a coffee date. Now, tomorrow, I'm not doing the gospel. I have a prior commitment with I got a Zoom call to do with my brothers at 10 o'clock. So I'm not going to be able to do the gospel show. But from what I understand, Kyle's going to do it tomorrow. So that'll still go on if you want to catch the radio show with the gospel, 10 to 12. And then coffee date at 1 o'clock. Hopefully Cam's power will be back on. But if not, I got some videos and I got some trivia. Evangelo sent me some cool trivia, so I'm going to throw that out. I don't know why I keep getting those notifications. Anyway, to everybody here, great conversation. You guys were awesome. I'm just going to say everybody because I'll never get through all the names. Went by fast, 2.5 hours. So hopefully we'll see y'all tomorrow at Coffee Date, and I'll let you know what's happening the rest of the week. Peace, TCB. Love you guys. Talk to y'all later.